when it started was a Sunday afternoon, sat at home, and Wes Anderson phoned up. I didn't recognise the number, obviously. And he said, oh, I'd like you interested in making some puppets for a little idea? And I was going, yeah. I'd worked with him on Fantastic Mr. Fox by then. And I said, yeah, that sounds great. He said, well, I'm going to send you a little video clip to get you in the mood. So the start of puppet making was this video clip. Yeah, you go, really? And if I'd have known what I was about to embark on, this made more sense at that point. It's like going to war. We got the script, you read through it. With any idea, when it's a commercial or whatever, normally you'll start with a description of it all. It said crowd there, always a worrying word when you're making puppets, because how many is that? That's the plan of the first 2 weeks of work, with a 68-man crew charting processes and timescale across. And this, as soon as you've got your plan, is what you need to do. Collect a group of people together, 68 of us, for this one project that took 3 years to complete, and their dogs. And start work on how to put a puppet together. So you've got them all in the workshop, and you'll start gathering your references. And it can come in all sorts of different ways. Wes sent me the script, and he said, read the script and let me know what you think. And I seem to remember being a bit cheeky, saying, I think we could make this the best pile of rubbish that's ever been seen, because it's set on Trash Island, obviously. And he just said, we have much, much to discuss, and then sent me 40 films to watch in the next 5 days. This was one of them, which is a lovely piece of work from 1929-30 of the original stop motion for Ramon de Renard, the story of the fox. You'll see some of the things, some tricks they use even back then. Different scale puppet going down a hill, bigger scale puppet coming up the hill. So you have a very short forced perspective set. It's a really lovely thing. He loved this, and it was like, I want it to feel like this. I'd just come from a film, Corpse Bride, and then Coraline, which of course was very slick, high frame rate, so it had to look really quite computer generated in many ways. And he didn't want to do that. He wanted something that was much more textural, which was Fantastic Mr. Fox. But you often get all sorts of different references. Some of these were from Peter and the Wolf, and the little boy from Angela's Ashes. He liked the eyes, he liked the hair. So you're looking at all these things and gathering all of these things together. What's going to influence you? Some old illustrations by Donald Chafin, woodblock prints. Who does Mr. Fox look like? Previous movies. Wes had a very good idea what the jacket would look like. So made it quite easy for us. In fact, I think he sent us one to copy, but we had to send it back. We couldn't cut it up. Again, style. What's going to look good? What are all the things? The 40 movies you're going through, looking at various, elements of costume. This was a television commercial. What's the haircut look like? This is some references for a Cravendale advert. And this is for Ralph. These were we started with. Like, what's our guy going to look like? What's he got to do? What's the story he's got to communicate over to everybody? He's in a fairly damaged place. We've not got to put people off. We've got to communicate with them. So you're treading a fine line when you're putting these things together sometimes. I love this one because of the brown underpants. But this was from American Hustle, and you've got lots of period things because he's got to look like he's come from one place. It's sort of contemporary, but it's the sense that they've been in the same place for a long time. So trying to fit all these things in. Once you've got your references together, you've had your discussion, you've made your plan, you've got your crew, you're looking at character design of how are we going to draw it and put it together. You know, are we going to draw it? Are we going to sculpt it? There's many ways to approach it. This is Wes's drawing, which I've managed to get slightly fuzzy, but it's quite rare because he doesn't often do any drawings. So I just want them to look really scratchy like this. That was the only concept character design drawing he did for the entire film, and he just let us sculpt things. These are various drawings from Fantastic Mr. Fox, some by the original illustrator, some by some of the people that worked on it, Huey Voos. I particularly like Boggis Bunsen Bean there with the kilt. I wish we'd have made that, would have been great. Again, quick character drawings. You can do a lot with the drawing. One of the beautiful things with drawings is you can go through them very quickly, so you can develop what the thing is going to be like before you even start sculpting it. And here he is, the final drawings that we went for, more or less in the costumes that we used, with a sense of the damage that's on him. He was quite a successful, well-known character by the end. But they're all drawings. When you're going into stop motion and puppet making, you're going to go from the 2D to 3D. So these get you so far, and then you've got to make the jump into a three-dimensional thing. This is Atari. Often we find three-quarter views or one view, one perspective, but not necessarily full turnaround. So you have to answer some questions when you get to the sculpt. This was for a TV commercial for Sipsmith Gin. Quite fashion drawing like, long, elongated, really nice, very lovely to make into puppets because their proportions lend themselves to being easy to move. You've got to set the scale. Sounds daft, but one of the first things we'll do is, with all of this, is, well, how big does it need to be? Because if you have a big puppet, it's a big set. If you need to cheat perspective, at the very front of that table, which some of you at the back will not be able to see, there is a tiny, tiny little Mr. Fox puppet, which is about this big. But it meant that you could create a vast set. And then, like that Starovich picture, you could come down one hill, go up another, and cheat to another puppet. It's something we often use. It's a really good way of creating space. But one of the reasons for setting the scale is talking. If it's got to talk, how do we do that? With Spots that's on the table there and the rat from Henry Sugar, their mechanics are inside their head. And it gets to a certain point where it's really difficult to make that much smaller. So that sort of dictates the size of a talking puppet. And then you might have a close-up hand or a close-up head. So it gives you an idea of how we'll cheat that from a very tiny little silicon Christopherson all the way up to his talking one, which you'll have seen in the film when he's making, doing his dialogue. That'll be the one, the hero at 30 centimetres tall. The miniature can talk, but the micro gets a little bit too tiny for that. Again, it can be quite big things as well, from people in costumes, also a puppet, and the big sculpted face was for a piñata, funny enough. And here's our hero scale of all of our characters, going down to the little Ataris. So that's the hero pack, and these are the ones that you'll have seen talking. So we've set the scale. That precedes the art department generally building anything, because until we know how small we can make a puppet, we can't build a set for it. So you can be drawing it up, but we can't really set the scale. There's lots of different scales, as you can see, giant puppets of number 3, big flowers, the wings from the Swan and Henry Sugar had to work, fully mechanical and fold down. So it forces you to think into all sorts of different sizes. Often, because my world's in miniature, they are very tiny. These are the ones from the Grand Hotel Budapest with a pound coin for size. I particularly like this one because Wes, I remember him saying, he said, we've got to make sure we've got the knuckle dusters sculpted on his hand. He is this tall, and they've got little death's head knuckle dusters on. We never see him from the front, but they're in there anyway.